Okay, now, uh, hello to everybody on YouTube. I'm still getting set up. I'm also recording or going live to LinkedIn as well, and I am used to going live to YouTube, so I got that up and going immediately. I'm having a little bit of trouble getting LinkedIn set up, so let me just. That's why we log on early. I'm not forgetting to go live. I need to be careful because nobody can hear you except for me. Hey Pat. I don't think it's gonna let. On LinkedIn or YouTube? Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, every time I hit go live, it's like showing me that it looks good, and then it says, oops, something went wrong. I might. Uh, I don't think. I think the problem is if I break. Yeah, I'm gonna stop recording for a sec. Stop going live for a second. Hopefully that doesn't screw up YouTube. Stream ended. There we go. Okay, I'm back up. Pat, can you see me on YouTube again? Okay, cool. What the hell? LinkedIn isn't working. It delayed like it was gonna work for a second. Okay, maybe I'll wait till 7, and then if not, we'll just hopefully throw it up in the chat. If there are you seeing the chat, Matthew? Okay, I'll try again. I have a countdown on my side. 3, 2. I'm gonna try one other thing. See if I can do it from my phone. Maybe that'll be better. All right. Sorry for the wait, everybody. I am just working on getting everything situated on the other side of the stream. Should be just another minute or two. Yeah, do that while I work on this. I'm going to give it another minute or two. All right. Yeah, it's not going live. Let me see if I can like update everybody to streams. Prepare to go live. Okay, may take a few seconds. Did you already do the message? Yeah, hit enter. Just tell people, and then if I can get it up in the next minute or so, I will. Okay. Oh, thanks. Yeah, there's two or three people on right now, and I don't want to keep you all waiting. I appreciate everybody coming. I'm just trying to get because I think I have several people on LinkedIn waiting, so I will start in the next 2 minutes. Just having technical difficulties. All right. They actually let me do it as a clickable link. Oh, so that's good. I think it's because I'm the author or the event creator. All right. All right. Okay. Well, we're getting some viewers on YouTube. All right. I'm gonna. I guess if anybody's got any questions they want to ask before the reading, we could do that. While we just give people a couple minutes to come on over from LinkedIn. Sorry, we've been struggling for. Oh, I guess we're starting to get some traction here. So maybe everybody saw the link on LinkedIn. If you did see the link on LinkedIn, just comment to let me know. I do have a couple of moderators that are helping me that'll be giving me questions as we go through. But as you know, here it is. We're all here to hopefully enjoy tonight's chapter, and I really appreciate everybody coming out tonight, or coming on tonight. Uh, so just wanted to give everybody just give everybody enough time to get on because I feel I don't want to get started without a bunch of you. But yeah, so let me know if you have any questions, but we'll get started in just a second. All right, looks like it's a little delayed on the. All right. Okay. All right, I'm going to get started. If it, and I'll repeat this at the end. If for some reason you miss the beginning, I'm going to be posting the video. I'll cut all the extra stuff out, but I'll post a version of this so that anybody can watch it later. And I got to remember my camera's up here because I'm looking at my screen. All right, so we're gonna start. I wrote the dinner party. It comes out November 4th. I appreciate you coming on tonight to listen to me read. I'll be reading chapter 4 from part 1. Part 1 is entitled Proto Incel, and I'll be reading chapter 4. Okay. Mr. McCarthy, Greg's religion teacher for the past 3 years, often got speakers to come and talk to his class. He tended to get at least 2 a semester. Sometimes the speaker would address a topic that the faculty all felt was important. On these occasions, they would have the speaker address the entire school during an assembly. The Tuesday before Thanksgiving, there was always an assembly. This year, the school was having a speaker, a non-Catholic youth minister named Gerald Sharp. He was in his early 30s and dressed in a fresh ironed bright blue shirt and yellow tie. He was on the stage, talking with Mr. McCarthy and fiddling with the microphone as the students began to file in. The speakers in Mr. McCarthy's class tended to be interesting and keep the kids' attention. They were philosophical or on occasions had overcome addiction. They tended not to be corny. The speakers that he got that ended up being assembly speakers were often the opposite. But for some of the kids who took religion seriously, like Greg, there was a level of reverence for the message, even if the messenger was cheesy. Greg sat next to Jim and Rich, with Robin sitting on the opposite side of Rich. Danielle wasn't with her because they were made to sit in their homerooms. Greg looked around the auditorium, and when he saw Danielle coming in with her class, and she smiled, he gave her a small wave. You kids shouldn't be getting high on Mary J. Wanna when you can get high on Jesus Christ, Rich whispered in his goofiest voice. Jim laughed, and both Robin and Greg gave him a look to signal him to stop before they got in trouble. Robin was religious as well. Mr. McCarthy tapped the microphone, and everyone settled down. The kids tended to not always respect the assemblies or the speakers, but they respected Mr. McCarthy. He had created an atmosphere in which they felt comfortable asking questions without judgment. Every freshman would test the limits and find out that there were none, and then they too would respect him. "Hello, ladies and gentlemen," he spoke and had his signature smile spread across his face. "Today we have Gerald Sharp, who's an Episcopalian minister, but we can forgive him for not being Catholic." He laughed, and Gerald did as well. "Reverend Sharp is going to talk to us today about a very serious topic. Well, I suppose I'll let you introduce your topic so I don't overstep." He handed the microphone to Reverend Sharp, descended the 5 stairs off stage, and sat in the front row. Reverend Sharp looked around and smiled at the crowd. "Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. It's very kind of you to invite me here to speak today. So, before I jump into the topic, I have a question for all young men and women. By show of hands, how many people in this room have had sex?" Everyone looked around to see if anyone was going to raise their hand. Someone in the crowd yelled, "In this room?" and everyone laughed. After another 30 seconds, no hands were in the air. "Great. That was my hope, to get to speak to a room full of pure kids who haven't had sex yet." He spoke in a tongue-in-cheek tone, as he was not naive to think that in a room with 400 high schoolers, that none of them had had sex yet. Behind the podium, he had a glass of water, and he picked it up. The glass was crystal clear, as was the water. He put the glass to his lips and filled his mouth with as much of the water as he could. Then he tilted the glass back into its upright position and carefully let the water fall out of his mouth back into the glass. "Does anyone want to drink from this glass?" he asked the audience with confidence. There was a murmur of disgust, and kids shook their head. Greg didn't like germs in general, and this seemed even grosser to him. "Is no one willing to drink this glass of water?" Reverend Sharp asked, knowing that his point would work on some of these kids. "Okay, let's do a hypothetical. I'm not going to ask Mr. McCarthy to do what I just did to the same glass of water, but say he did. Say he did it. Would that make you more or less likely to want to drink from this glass of water?" He raised his eyebrows in rehearsed curiosity. "Less," the kids murmured. Then say after he was done letting the water run back from his mouth into the glass, we got a third person to do it. Would you be even less likely? Yes, they responded. He pulled a second glass from the podium, nearly identical to the first. Now, who, if thirsty, would want to drink from this glass? Several kids, Greg included, raised their hands. Greg hoped that he wasn't going to actually ask them to, that it was still a hypothetical. Now, the two glasses look basically the same, and if I were to mix them up behind my back, you may not be able to tell which is which, right? The kids nodded. But the point is that we know this one is used and dirty. He raised the first glass in his left hand. And this one is clean and pure, even if they look the same. When you have sex with someone, you are filled with them. They've left an imprint on you, and you may not look any different, but you're no longer clean. And this gets more true with every person you have sex with. Jesus fucking Christ, Jim muttered under his breath. Now, for me to go back and drink my original glass, he takes a big gulp from the first glass, isn't a big deal. This glass has only had my imprint on it. That's fine. That's essentially like sex within marriage. But if one of you had done what I did to one of these glasses, I would not want to drink that dirty water. What if I really want lemonade and you've backwashed some lemon juice into my water? Could I just mix a bit of sugar and some ice in? Greg looked up, but before he found the source of the voice, he knew it was Caleb. Caleb was a stereotypical bad kid and had been suspended twice since they began high school. I didn't see who asked that. I'd like to address you directly. He had dealt with kids yelling up comments before, and they were always too scared to stand up and show themselves when confronted. He had not, however, dealt with Caleb Sullivan. Caleb stood up and stared back at Reverend Sharp. For Reverend Sharp, this was a first, but for Caleb, it was not. Freshman year, a speaker had come to talk to the kids about the evils of abortion and how they hoped that someday it would be illegal once again. Caleb had stood up and said he'd go buy stock in wire hangers. That was his first suspension. His second suspension came when they had a speaker come to talk about the importance of keeping gay people from getting civil unions. His response that time had been to ask why the speaker cared so much about butt fucking if he himself didn't like butt fucking. It had taken a lot of promises from his parents to make that only a suspension and not an expulsion. The juniors and seniors who had witnessed the first two responses knew that there was a high likelihood of Caleb being expelled this time. They watched, unsure what to do about it. So if I understand correctly, you asked about lemonade, Reverend Sharp said, unsure of how to handle the delinquent but standing his ground. Caleb was about 5'9" tall and chubby. He did not have a physically imposing stature. It was his willingness to stand up to anything and the quickness with which he could come up with a comeback that made him formidable. Yes, it's just that water in this metaphor seems to be a stand-in for vanilla missionary position sex within a marriage, and that the implication is that it is the perfect glass of water for everyone. Mr. McCarthy shot a warning look over at Caleb. He understood Caleb and had given him a much wider berth than other teachers, but in front of the whole school, in front of Principal Doherty, he couldn't allow him to go as far as he might in the class. It's just that this prescriptive attitude towards sex, especially when it denies human nature. Mr. Sullivan, that is enough. Come with me. Mr. Doherty was standing in the back of the auditorium. With his booming voice, not even Reverend Sharp with his microphone could rival him for volume. Mr. Doherty, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm genuinely trying to understand this offensive metaphor. Does my own belief system not matter? Mr. Sullivan, if you have questions for the Reverend Sharp, you could present them in the question portion of the presentation. If your point is to be combative, they should have been in private. This is inappropriate. Mr. Doherty, I think having a grown virgin stand up there and lecture us is inappropriate, especially in a way that will knowingly make anyone who may not have raised their hand when he asked who had had sex, is wildly inappropriate. Although I will say the shame did not work on me, and I have had sex before. I'm a spit out glass of water, and I have been with clean glasses of water and unclean glasses of water. And you know which ones are more enjoyable? The ones with a little flavor. Mr. Sullivan, come with me this instant, Mr. Doherty was a color of red that none of them had seen in a human before. His voice was no longer calm while booming, but was audibly frustrated, and had raised an octave. Caleb let out a resigned sigh and began shuffling out of his seat when Jim stood up. I'm actually curious about the same thing. I'm not a Catholic. I'm actually not even a Christian, and what my family believes is that sex is not a shameful thing, and having multiple lovers does not tarnish one's beauty or divinity. All right, Mr. Barlow, you can come too, Mr. Doherty looked at Jim as he told him what to do. You can throw Caleb out of school, and you can give me detention or suspension, but that doesn't mean we're wrong. Imagine being a glass of water that someone had spit in, and then being told no one will ever want you. There is nothing wrong with anyone who's had sex, willingly or not. Mr. Barlow, now! Normally, a disruption during an assembly would have garnered laughs, but the auditorium was quiet enough to hear a pin drop. The entire room's eyes moved back and forth between the two boys and the principal. Greg looked up at Jim, who was standing above him, and whispered, "Why'd you have to do that?" Jim glared at Greg and shoved him to get out into the aisle. Caleb and Jim followed Mr. Doherty out of the auditorium as the rest of the kids sat silent and watched. Once Once they were out of the auditorium and the door had shut behind them, Reverend Sharp began again. He maintained his composure and smiled at them. Your peers are misguided. It's understandable in this secular world where we're taught that pleasure is right. We're told to have what you want when you want it. It can be tempting to apply that to sex, but let's take a look at it from another angle. Who here wants a car but doesn't currently have one? Several kids raised their hands and Reverend Sharp nodded. Now let's say you want a car and it's going to be $5,000 and you're working at a grocery store a couple nights a week and on the weekends. And then your friends want to go to the movies every Friday and buy tickets and popcorn and candy. What does that come up to? 30 bucks? How long will it take for you to get that car? He paused for a moment and let the first point sink in, looking around at them. Delaying gratification can be a good thing. It can help you achieve your goals, specifically for the girls. If you're hoping to find a man, not a boy, but a man, who will respect and love you enough to make you his wife, do you want to keep spending your money on popcorn and candy? He was able to finish his lecture without interruption. Those who disagreed were too scared to speak up. But in a religious school like this, there were some who believed. Greg found himself somewhere in the middle. He thought that abstinence until marriage made sense, and that much of what the Reverend stated did too. He wasn't sure how, however, he had the self-restraint, but reminded himself that so far he hadn't needed any. After the assembly, they had an early release for the day, and the rest of the week off for Thanksgiving. Greg went to his locker and swapped his stuff out. He caught up with Rich, who was talking with Robin and Danielle. "Have you seen Jim?" Rich asked him as he approached. "I haven't. We could walk by Mr. Doherty's office on the way out and see if the door's closed." They had been planning to go to Friendly's for lunch after school, as was their half-day tradition. Greg hadn't thought that would have changed, but also assumed that Jim wasn't going to get a detention. When they walked by Mr. Doherty's office, the door was closed. It was windowless, so they couldn't see in. As they passed the main office, Jim was signing something at the secretary's desk. They lingered slowly, and then he turned around to leave, and they darted to the side of the door. "What happened?" Rich asked him as he turned the corner into the hallway where they were standing. "I'm suspended, not supposed to be on school campus until Monday," he said with a shrug. "Okay, so you can't hang out here this afternoon. That's fine. We're heading over to Friendly's," Greg said with a smile. "Dude, fuck off." Caleb is probably getting expelled in there. And yeah, I'm missing no class time, but the fact that I'm getting suspended will be on my record. Not to mention, I didn't do anything wrong. Mr. Doherty's a fucking fascist. Greg was stunned and stopped walking. Are you kidding right now? You just got off basically consequence free after being disrespectful to that speaker. You're lucky all you got was an in names only suspension. Jim stared at Greg and took a deep breath. Have you heard of the first goddamn amendment? Greg rolled his eyes. Saying anything you want doesn't mean that it's a fucking smart idea. Look, we all want to fuck, but that doesn't mean it's a good idea. Greg resumed going, making sure that his shoulder hit Jim's. Fuck you, Jim said as he passed. Greg didn't know why Jim was mad at him, which was common in their relationship. Greg would get mad at Jim for forgetting something that they had talked about several times. In turn, Jim would get mad at Greg for not realizing the importance of something that wouldn't even register for Greg. All right, so that is chapter 4 of the dinner party. I guess we could open up to questions. Let's see. I'm gonna if you put the questions in the chat, I will read them or answer them. All right. In the meantime, let's see. Just so you know, I've mentioned this several times, but in the lead up to this reading. But the book is on sale until midnight tonight. It's $19.99 instead of the normal $27.99. It's a hardcover, that's why it's as expensive as that. But $19.99 through a link that I believe I put in the YouTube stream. If not, I will link it there immediately after we're done streaming. Yeah, so any questions? And I can link that in if hopefully everybody got over from LinkedIn. Oh, here we go. I got a question from Russell Scarf. Is the chapter based on real life? If so, why is what? How much is accurate versus how much is fictionalized? Is that ratio consistent throughout the novel? First of all, the chapter is. I would say it's not really based on real life. I did in high school attend. We had a mandatory uh, assembly to talk about abstinence. The metaphor was different in our real assembly, and we didn't have anybody stand up and object to it. The metaphor in our assembly was that so we all had at my Catholic school we had sweaters that were really crappy sweaters, but they were uniform most of the year, and so we were given you know masking tape or whatever, and placed the tape on our sweater and peeled it off, and you'd see the curly threads of the sweater, and then from there we would try to stick it, and it would be less sticky with each passing sweater. And so that was the metaphor, but I didn't think that metaphor worked as well for the book because it required that I kind of rely on people understanding just how crappy these sweaters were. And the water thing I think worked a little bit better, a little more universally for people. I've also heard the chewed gum metaphor, which I understand, but I think that the water worked better in this situation, especially as I was going to extend the metaphor outward, with Caleb talking. As far as what is the second part of that question? How much is accurate versus how much is fictionalized? Okay, answered that. Oh, the ratio consistent throughout the novel. Yeah, I would say the ratio of like there are moments and things that happened in real life that I kind of took inspiration from, but I would say everything is pretty changed the way that I changed that, the way that not only the literal assembly metaphor, but then all of the other pieces of it, with the people objecting, Caleb objecting, Jim objecting. That didn't happen. There's lots of that where it is different in that way. Also, in the book, you know it's about Greg's sexual and emotional maturity and his relationships, and so a lot of that is taken from things that I've seen in real life, but I changed them drastically to make them fit for Greg. And also the the dinner party, which is part 4, I think, of the book, is where we get to see Greg kind of gets ambushed by some of his exes and has to face them at a dinner party where he and his fiance are hear about his misdeeds and his and what he's done, or as it, in their eyes. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. I know that some people came over from LinkedIn. All right. Can't see who's on, so I appreciate everybody that did come on today, um, and giving me your time. Right now, it looks like we have 5 people on, so I'm not sure who you all are, but thank you. Um, Trying to figure out if there is a way of updating. Oh, hi, Pirate Stage. I just saw a question from Pirate Stage that says, "How long did it take to write the whole thing?" Um, so that's a good question. Thanks, Pirate Stage. I wrote about 85% of it over the course of November in 2023. That's for National Novel Writing Month. I had I think it was 1,200 words a day goal. That's part of the National Novel Writing Month, not competition, but like thing that you submit yourself for, and it's just you hold yourself accountable. There's no, you don't pay anything, but or have any kind of consequences. But I held myself to that standard. Wrote most of it. Um, Sat on it for almost a year, and then kind of about a year ago was like, okay, let me look at what I've got left. I knew I was at that point I had almost 300 pages. Um, and it ends up not translating to 300 pages when you format it, but 300 pages of manuscript. I wrote another 20 pages in October, November, and December of 2024, and finished in like the first week of January. So realistically, it took me a year and a couple months to start to finish of the first draft. Um, but honestly, I would say that it was probably 4 months of actual writing time. Yeah, and a lot of that, that writing that I did in this last year in October, November, December, was not only writing, but it was taking the chapters and kind of rewriting and editing them as I went through, which helped me to finish up the last couple chapters. And then I spent I think 3 or 4 months doing back and forth edits with my editor, who is also our moderator this evening, Pat. Yeah. Oh, and then I get another question from Matthew. Starts in high school. How far does it go into the protagonist's life? It doesn't start in high school technically. It chapter 1 is middle school, and then chapter 2 jumps forward to high school. By the end of the book, Greg is about 35, but there's a lot that gets kind of fast forwarded through. And so we see him. The big periods are we see him in high school, we see him at around 30 for a good portion, and then we kind of see a bit of his late teens, early 20s, that like college age, and then we see the actual the dinner party part takes place around the age of 34, 35. I don't specifically define that within the in the book. Um, yeah, right. And hopefully everybody on LinkedIn is doing okay. Let's see, we get any updates on that side of things. Nobody's commented, so um, like I said before, if you jumped on late, I am going to be editing this so that you'll be able to see the whole reading, and I'll do each of the questions here, and I'll cut all the lag time and stuff everything out. And I'll do that for anybody who missed the initial reading. But I appreciate everybody coming. And I will, like I said, I will link in the chat and everything else, where I can get the where you can get that copy less expensive than usual, just for like that sale's been running for almost a month. It ends tonight. I'll do that right now. Uh, Matthew reminded me to say like and subscribe, since you are all watching on YouTube. You can like and subscribe. I've been doing updates on this channel a little bit to kind of talk about the book, and also anybody who's on here. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this earlier on, but chapter 1 is available for free download at michaelchristophercole.com. It's on the front page. It's not a situation where you have to give me an email address or anything. It actually is completely free. I've had 90 people download copies of the first chapter, and I don't know who any of you are. So it is anonymous. There's none of this, getting on a list kind of stuff. I don't know who any of those people are. I just know that 90 of them have been downloaded, which I was very happy about, and I hope all of you enjoy that. But let me get that link real quick. If anybody else has got a questions, give you a second to get that. All right. Also, you may have noticed that the book is white. I think that when we go to that final version of the book, which at this point I'm just waiting for, I don't have my author photo in here yet, and I'm going to be putting quotes on the back of the book. When I do that, oh sorry, author photo will go in here on the back cover. When I do all that, I'm going to probably change this to a off-white or cream color, because this looks a little more nonfiction with the white. I found that out afterwards, but this was never the final version. This was more a working version for me and for ARC readers. Yeah. Russell Scarf said, like lemonade instead of water. So the cream color. If you have cream color lemonade, I'm a little worried about that. Uh, but yeah. Um, Also, I've been getting if you go on Goodreads, there's about 3 days left on there as well. I am running there's a promo through Goodreads where they will pick the 5 people, but free signed copies if you add it to your TBR list on there. So go check that out on Goodreads. You can find it under Michael Christopher Cole. That I find is easier than the dinner party to find it on, but you can go either way. And I will have this link for you in just a second. Um, Copied, and I'm gonna put it in the chat. And I'm also, let's see, I think it might be in the description. I thought I put it in the description. Let me. Yeah, okay, it is on. It's in the description, so I didn't need to do that. And we're losing viewers, so I'm guessing I'm not going to get questions. Oh, I did get a text from somebody. Um, yeah, and I will end up posting this on my LinkedIn as well because it's kind of miserable that people didn't get to see it. Technical difficulties and it said it was going to go through like several times. I double checked and I made all these things. I was sitting down here for an hour ahead of time, but you know how it is with technical difficulties. So all right, if we don't have anything else, let me just anyway. Um, okay. We have, let me see. I appreciate the few of you I that asked some questions. I appreciate everybody, but I appreciate that you guys asked some questions. Um, Pirate Stage. I think I know who that is, and I appreciate that you hopped on tonight. And yeah, I know that it's. Oh, here we go. Brian, thank you for logging on. Sorry that you missed the reading. Like I told everybody else. I will be reposting this once I get a chance to cut it down to just the reading part and maybe the questions, but I'll cut all the excess out. All right. Anyway, sorry to everybody that missed it. I'll stay on for a couple more minutes. If anybody's got questions, I'd love to keep talking with you all, and I appreciate your time tonight. And like I said, the sale ends tonight at midnight. But still opportunities to get the book, obviously, because it's not even out yet till November 4th. Um, as of right now, I don't have any other events lined up except for one Raleigh book fair that I'm doing, which I don't even know that has been officially announced yet. So maybe I wasn't supposed to say anything. That's why I didn't say the full name. But so I'm working on those kind of things, and hopefully I'll be able to get a chance to meet with people in person. All right. Well, a lot of talking. I'm going to take a sip. Does I have not I have not prepared another section to read, and I thought, maybe I should, but I also read up that your typical book reading should last between 10 and 15 minutes of read time, and that took me about 15 minutes every time I rehearsed. So I don't have anything ready to go, but I don't mind. If anybody wants me to read more, I can pick up a different chapter if that's something anybody's interested in. I'm also realizing because I can see well, like when I picked up the cup, that there's a delay because there's at least a solid minute of delay. So I apologize for that side of things too. But it's amazing, that we can do these kind of things as opposed to everybody has to come to a reading, which is partly why I want to do it online because my friends and family and coworkers are so former coworkers are so spread out across the country. I even had one person RSVP from Europe, which Matthew reminded me ahead of time. Almost certainly they're not on here because it would have been like 2 o'clock in the morning. But that's the nice thing about doing a book reading this way, as opposed to hopefully I will eventually get to go into bookstores or do some of that kind of stuff once the book is actually out and I can sell it in person. and that's a great way to meet new people with it. But I also wanted a chance for everybody that I know and love or know and like to get a chance to get a little sneak preview of it. Um, yeah. All right. Since I'm not getting much on feedback, I'm probably gonna end the stream. Oh, oh. Is the UK really Europe though? Really? Uh, in time zone, which is really what I'm referring to, I suppose. Yeah, it's um, it's it's what 5 hours ahead or 6 hours ahead. I think it's 5 hours ahead. Um, all, so yeah. All right. Okay, everybody. I'm gonna end the stream if everybody's cool. And I will reach out on LinkedIn to anybody to reshare this, and I appreciate all of you.